Welcome to Learn to Live Stress-Free. This is Christine Wright with Dr. Robert Wright Jr., your go-to wellness coaches of www.stressfreenow.info.
Hi, audience. This is Dr. Bob. Today, Christine and I will be discussing the sentiments shared in the holiday greeting, wishing you health, happiness, and prosperity. Christine coaches highly sensitive introverts to access their personal power, encouraging them as they eliminate habitual patterns of resistance. If you feel overwhelmed by the speed of life and the constantly increasing demands on your time, attention, and energy by a never-ending list of obligations, she'll show you how to manage the pace of incoming requests and prioritize your activities. Christine's gentle approach, coupled with her intuition and strong organizational skills, helps you recognize your aptitudes so that you can play to your strength. When you work with Christine, you will quickly be able to increase your confidence, to identify and to remove your internal blocks, to improve your performance, and to increase your desired results successfully with ease. An innately curious alternative thinker, Christine has a passion for coaching, teaching, and sharing information that helps you move forward in your life. Her versatile levels of experience span careers in performing dance, elementary and secondary education, nonprofit community-based organizations, retailing, administration, management, and publishing. Christine is a double NYU graduate holding a BS degree in dance education from NYU's Steinhardt School and a Master of Arts degree in interdisciplinary art from the NYU Gallatin School. Christine studied ideokinesis under the iconic and adored Andre Bernard. She is a certified seminar leader and a certified practitioner of neurolinguistic programming, otherwise known as NLP. Skilled in the use and application of the law of attraction and the use of ideokinesis in facilitating ease and flow in movement, Christine brings warmth, insight, humor, and experience to her work with individuals and groups. Christine's approach helps you to live your life in integrity with congruence in your thoughts, feelings, actions, and results. Christine believes that by being true to your own values and beliefs, you'll be better able to realize your hopes and dreams so that you can live and create an ideal, authentic life.
Thanks, Bob. I'm really happy to be discussing this with you, especially today on this holiday, where we do wish our audience health, happiness, and prosperity.
Wonderful, Christine. And again, greetings, audience. So, Christine, tell our audience, what do you find so appealing about this greeting?
I think it covers everything in our lives. We want to be healthy, and health is really the starting point of how we go through life. When we're healthy, we're able to do what we need to do easily. We have energy, we can be directed in our focus, and we can really have a very good level of performance. And of course, happiness goes without saying. I would think it's safe to say that everyone wants to be happy. So wishing someone health and happiness seems like a logical step. Definitely prosperity. We're looking to be prosperous. That's what makes life easy and fun for so many of us. Whether it's being prosperous by having a lot of friends, whether it's being prosperous by having money in the bank, that's something that most, if not every single one of us, is looking for. So I've always thought that this is sort of an all-purpose greeting. I love using it at the holiday time and just any time in the year that it's something I know that you and I look for ourselves, and we want that for the people that we love. So it only stands to reason that this is just a great global greeting for the holiday time and for any time that we're looking to live lives in health, happiness, and prosperity. So that's why I've always enjoyed this greeting.
Great, Christine. I'm sure our audience agrees with that. What would you say are the attributes of health, happiness, and prosperity?
Well, health, hopefully if people have a good, strong baseline health. There are those who suffer from different acute ailments or chronic ailments. So I think people who experience that, who have a long-term illness, who, have diabetes, if someone is taking care of a family member who has an illness and it's long-standing, you really see the wear and tear on it. So, and there are people who have limitations in their health, and whether it's people who are hearing impaired or visually impaired, we come in all shapes and sizes, and not all of us have the capacity to be at 100% of health, whatever that may be. We may not be in that state. So certainly for people who are relatively healthy or in an average state of health, people are looking for things like, making sure that they get enough sleep. You talk about this all the time, and I mean, you and I did a great podcast where you talked about the benefits of getting enough sleep, and that's certainly part of health. The whole idea of Stress-Free Now is that we take care of the things that are putting wear and tear on our physical body, our emotional body, our mental body. Many people, there's the stressors on physical health, but stressors on emotional and mental health. Students or professionals studying for an exam or stressed out in some way to meet some deadline or to meet some performance standard, that's also part of what we look for in having good health and to being able to balance our systems in some way. And then, of course, just getting enough diet and exercise, having the right healthy diet and getting enough exercise. Today, so many of us are sitting for far more hours than is good for our optimum health and well-being, that to get exercise, we have to make time to go to the gym because there isn't any walking in the day. Many more people are working at home, or there's just this sedentary lifestyle. So realizing that the body needs to move, realizing that you want to eat the right type of diet that keeps you well, all those things are part of what would compromise that aspect of health. And happiness, when I look at happiness, I think of it in relationship. We all have different value systems. Some people may be happy with one or two friends, and some people can be happy sitting at home reading. Other people need to be active, need to be involved with people, and need to be doing something with someone all day long. So whatever happiness constitutes for each person will be different. But generally, I look at happiness at relationships. Are our relationships fulfilling? Are we with people who love us and care for us and are in our corner 100%? Do we have integrity and truth in our relationship? Do we have enough friendships? Whatever that may be. And certainly prosperity, if you are doing the work that you love and that you're making a living wage, a viable income from that, you're really in a fantastic spot. So, one of the things that you and I have talked about when I mention Barbara Scher, who's a coach, she often talks about sometimes the thing you love may not be what can earn you a living wage. So you may have to work at a job that may not be ideal to have your income, coming in, but definitely fulfill your passion by still doing that work that you love. So if you look at your life and you realize these are the things I have and these are the things I want, you can pretty much put it together to fill what you want in that pot that would give you ideal health, ideal happiness, whether it's in your relationships with others, your friends, your family, yourself, and in prosperity, whether it's money coming in the bank or just having abundance in your lifestyle.
Wonderful, Christine. After the short break, I want to come back and pick up a thread that you mentioned very briefly, which is the thread about self-care, especially during this holiday period. I think there are many people who serve caregiving roles, whether it's a mother, a father, an aunt, a grandmother, a grandfather. They are serving roles where they are under a lot of stress or experiencing anxiety or even pain sometimes, and they may forget to take care of themselves and or be wrongfully thinking of taking care of themselves first as being selfish. And so I want to just pick up that thread of the fact that self-care is not selfishness. We keep coming back to that same familiar analogy or metaphor, if you will, from the airlines, which is to put on your own oxygen mask first before assisting others. So we'll be right back after this short commercial break.
Have you been procrastinating about completing an important project or pursuing a treasured dream? Hi, this is Christine Wright. I specialize in helping my coaching clients to lay out clear, goal-achieving strategies. I show you how to quickly build your confidence and uncover and eliminate your habitual patterns of resistance and self-sabotage. Let me help you discover those meaningful insights that will get you to do what works so you can celebrate your successes. Go to stressfreenow.info/contact to let me know that you're ready to live your ideal life. Again, that's stressfreenow.info/contact. Dr. Robert Wright Jr. is an author, speaker, and stress management wellness coach. Dr. Bob holds a Ph.D. in transformative studies and a master's degree in psychology. He is a certified open focus trainer, a certified practitioner of Ericksonian hypnosis, a certified practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming, and a certified seminar leader. Co-host of the Learn to Live Stress-Free podcast, he is the author of 4 books on relieving stress, healing grief, and enhancing well-being, including 7 tips for avoiding stress burnout for busy entrepreneurs. Learn more about how Dr. Bob helps you to relieve the stresses of everyday life so you can live longer and play with your grandchildren at stressfreenow.info/contact. That's stressfreenow.info/contact.
Hi, audience. We're back on the Stress Free Now podcast, and we're here with my co-host, Christine Wright, discussing health, happiness, and prosperity. So, Christine, before the break, we basically were talking about this issue of self-care, and especially around the holidays, how important it is for people to remember that it is not selfish to think of taking care of yourself. For example, a mother who is working a full-time job and has full-time homemaking responsibilities may need to take that time out for the bubble bath or to get her hair done or get that facial, and without a sense of feeling guilty that, oh my gosh, you always putting someone first. And that can you just talk about why this concept of self-care is not selfishness, and how taking care of yourself needs to be reframed in a way that people can feel good about it without guilt?
Excellent point, Bob. This concept of self-care isn't touted nearly enough, I think, as it could be in our environment. There are many of us that we just get caught up in what we have to do day to day, and we just go above and beyond, and we're not taking a break to get enough sleep, to just clear our head. You mentioned before caretakers, and certainly at this time of the year with the children being home, if parents, they may be working, they may not have time off, so there's sometimes this scramble and this rush to get things done, and we aren't always thinking, and we just are pushing and pushing and pushing, and at some point something has to give, and you don't want that something to be your own mental, physical, or emotional health. You do need to make sure that you just have some quiet time in the day for yourself, and that's perfectly all right. If you're doing things, if you're taking care of the kids, if you're taking care of your parents, if you're taking care of a friend or neighbor, when you're doing for someone else, just be aware of really how much do you have to give, because as you're doing this, if you're not paying attention, then you'll start to see you're getting these aches and pains. You're having digestive problems and different types of distress. Your blood pressure is going up. You've got headaches. You're snapping at your loved ones. So taking time out and saying no sometimes is very important. You can't be all things to all people all the time. And when you try and do that, especially if you're trying to make dinner for the holidays or get ready for company to come over, or you're cleaning the house, you're doing extra, and you don't even have enough gas to do the basics, and then you're trying to do extra. So you definitely have to stop and read a book, take a bubble bath, just look up at the stars, take a walk, have those little ready remedies, even if it's just a cup of hot chocolate or a cup of tea, whatever it is that you do in your life just to let off some steam, take a breath. It's very important to incorporate that in your day-to-day, especially with all the technology today that we can be just so rushed and so busy. We've got information coming at us. We may have demands from our job and our bosses and our coworkers. When there's just this pressure to perform all the time, and you do need to switch off. You do need to switch off and take a moment and say, what do I need? What can I do for myself in this moment without being concerned about obligations and whatever may be nipping at your heels or breathing down your neck? You do have to take that time for yourself.
Well, thank you, Christine. I just want to wrap up this area by mentioning, as you know, we know several cases where people, especially in this whole area of elder care, where a person, a family member is very concerned about the person who may have the illness or is sick, etc., and it turns out that with the stress burnout and other features of tending to a person, that either the caregiver gets sick or they have passed away unexpectedly, or they were in a tragic accident, fell asleep while driving, etc., because they are burned out. So I just want to say to the audience that to remember that taking care of yourself or self-care is not the same thing as being selfish, and in fact that if you can remember that taking care of yourself is like the airline metaphor, to put on your own oxygen mask first, that when you're empowered like that, you are actually in a better position to assist others, especially those you love and care about. So, Christine, I want to continue on the main topic here, which is health, prosperity, and happiness. So how do people go about achieving those states?
There's so many practices, Bob, and I think that's how you and I came together. We were interested in learning ways of improving our lives. We were interested in learning techniques of how to feel better and just how to increase our performance and our results without stressing ourselves out. And you and I have spoken before when we've interviewed guests and when we've spoken to each other about how we do things differently. So certainly how members of our audience will go about achieving these states will be very different. Personally, I'm a big fan of having a plan. And at this time of the year, people might be reflecting on last year, what worked, what didn't work, what was wonderful, what was really hard, and what they're looking to get away from. And they may be making resolutions and have these hopes and dreams for the new year. And that's part of it. That really is how this starts. You have an idea in your mind. You know that here is this ideal that I want to achieve. Things of, as we spoke about before with diet and exercise, I want to be this particular weight. You know, I want to have this new job. I want to have this new romance or this new friendship. So clearly identifying what it is you want, and as I've spoken about before, sometimes we don't know what we want because it's been such a long time, and our enthusiasm may have been dampened by the day-to-day of life. I think one of the things you and I have talked about when we spoke with someone and we made some comment and they said, well, you can't have time and money. The concept has to be there. The possibility has to be there in your mind. So you achieve your health, happiness, and prosperity by identifying what are the aspects, what are you looking for in terms of your ideal health? What are you looking for that will make you happy? How will spending your time, how will you living your life? What are those components? And the same thing with your prosperity, to really map that out. We're both fans of, there's so many great teachers, writers, coaches, speakers, and we've had many wonderful people on our show who have shared their systems for doing things. I mean, one of My favorites, as you know, is Maria Nemeth when she talks about living a life with clarity, focus, ease, and grace. So when you know what you want to do, when you have that idea, you can put your plan together and go out there and get it. Barbara Shear, as I mention often, her first book, Wishcraft, was, what is it you want? Wish for that and think of that. And she has a whole system of getting in touch with your dreams and your hopes and your desires. And then she talks about going to the craft aspect, which, how can I get this done? What resources do I need? Where do I need help? And you go out and you ask people. I mean, Brian Tracy and others, they're very big on this. Much of what we want to do depends on a skill, and we can learn most any skill. And what we can't learn and what we might not have a high aptitude at or be good at, we can find someone else who can do that for us, who can help us with that, who can teach us how to do that in some way.
Christine, thank you for that. I just want to just take a quick segue here. You often talk about Dr. Rick Hanson, the author of The Buddha Brain. He has this concept of petting your inner lizard, and based on the triune brain model. So can you just talk briefly, because we have this conversation from time to time about whether Rick's ideas are accurate and helpful, and for many people they seem to be. But of course that's from a particular perspective. Can you just give your perspective on this issue of inner lizard? The reason I mention it is because, this is during the holidays, and I think all of us know one or more person that may fit into the category of what I'll just call being a curmudgeon, or this is the time for Scrooge. And so I know when I first encountered this, and I saw people that were grumpy all the time, and I actually, to my shock and chagrin, when I asked them, I said, gee, are you a curmudgeon? And they came back and they said, well, yes, I like being grumpy. I like stirring the pot. I like being angry. And so can you talk about that? So whenever I encounter someone like that, either it's a woman or a man, and I was surprised how many women said, well, I'm a curmudgeon. And so I think of Rick Hanson's thing of, well, maybe they need their inner lizard petted, a little bit more.
I think they may need their inner lizards petted, but as you mentioned that these people have replied, they're content to be ill-content. So, there's a wide range of characteristic traits and personality types. And certainly in NLP work, we talk about the parts of us and the aspects of us and how we're going to integrate that. Now, if you've got your inner lizard and you know that your inner lizard is going to rear its head and be ornery or crotchety or bite somebody else's finger or, bite your own finger or toe, and you're willing to and you want to, sure, you can soothe it and find ways to appease the needs that are unmet in your life, to soothe yourself. When we were talking about self-care, what's going to make you feel better in the moment? Do you need a little piece of cheesecake? Do you need a cup of tea? Whatever it is that's going to soothe you in the moment, if you want to be soothed. Again, just what you mentioned, some people, they're habituated to being in a non-resourceful state, and they think that's the only way they can live, and they want to continue living like that. And maybe if you know someone like that, the remedy might be to keep your distance, to stay away, just to spend 30 seconds with them, say hello, and move on, and not spend your time in the company of someone who doesn't want to be in the same type of state of well-being that you want to be in. And for whatever reason, some days our inner lizard may be out of sorts and you do want to pet him or her, so you find those activities that will make your inner lizard happy, and you just pet your inner lizard and calm it down and continue with your day.
Well, Christine, thank you for that. I want to apologize to our audience because we may be using terms that not everyone, I was reflecting that not everyone might be familiar with Dr. Rick Hanson's work or even Buddha Brain, et cetera. And so when we've been using this term inner lizard, they might say, what are these Bob and Christine talking about? So this is based on the tripart brain model where the inner lizard is the reptilian part of the brain, pretty much the brain stem, and it is the part of the human system where our instincts reside, and so that is where people would just react and in a non-thinking fashion. So when we've been using this term inner lizard, that's what we're talking about. We're distinguishing that between, say, the limbic section of the brain where people would have their emotions and feeling, and then the prefrontal cortex where the executive portion of the brain is what the thinking is. So the reptilian portion of the brain is where the automatic behaviors take place, and so when a person strikes out or does something, and so there's no thinking involved. It's very fast, and it's mostly unconscious. So that's what we mean by petting the inner lizard. So if you think of a reptile, so that it occurred to me that not everyone might understand that. So I wanted to make that clear. So Christine, as we get to start winding down the show here, I want to ask you this question. When you consider the ideas that we're talking about, health, prosperity, and happiness, those three concepts are essentially, if you think of the notion of abundance or living an abundant life, that would most likely encapsulate all three of those. And then the thing is, when you distinguish health, it's like of health prosperity, or it's all a form of abundance or prosperity, or it could be looked at in that way. So my question to you is, from your perspective and based on your experience, what are some of the things that can get in the way for a person as they try to achieve a healthier lifestyle, as they try to become more prosperous, etc.?
There are many things that can get in the way, and they can be broken down really into two categories, internal and external. And while the external may seem real and formidable, in my experience, in our conversations, in our lives with each other and with family, with friends, with clients, we see that a lot of what gets in the way are internal conflicts. Thoughts that we've had, the story of our lived lives, that we have a belief about some event, some experience, some feeling that we're carrying with us, and it's not serving us. But we're holding on so much to a past hurt, to something in our personal story. And the way we can get to the health, happiness, and prosperity is to give that up. We need to forgive some slight that was committed against us. We need to forgive if we missed the mark and we did something to someone else. And sometimes I think we even need to forgive if we are a victim or we make a mistake. There are many times we said, oh my gosh, how could I have made that mistake? And we keep beating ourselves up. Nobody's doing the damage in that case but us. And there are many times that we have these thoughts in our head and we're not realizing it. You spoke about Rick Hanson a moment ago. And there's a whole body of work in neuroscience that talks about what Hanson talks about, the negativity bias. And what that is that we remember a negative event, especially when it is connected to some emotion, far more readily and easily than we do positive events. And that's a survival mechanism. If you make a mistake, if you go down that dark alley, it's a bad alley, you're going to remember that. But you're not as likely to call up the memory of skipping through a field of flowers. So we really want to look at what's good in our lives, and to make a list of that, there's the whole practice of having a gratitude journal, knowing what's good, knowing where your successes are. A lot of what we talk about is to celebrate your successes. Bob, you tell this to me all the time. I'll think that I had a lousy day, that I didn't do anything, and you'll say, hey, you got this done, you got that done. Give yourself credit. So sometimes we're not giving ourselves credit for all the good that we're doing. We don't notice it. If we're listening to what's going on and what's happening in the world, we can really get bombarded and sad. And when you're focused on that, it is good to know what's happening. But if that's making you weak and sad, then you need to consider changing how you approach that. As you and I have spoken about, Bob, one of my teachers had said, if you're watching the news or something and it's making you sad, stop watching the news. And others, said, how can I not watch the news? Well, if you're watching it and it's making you sad, then maybe consider, is there something I can do to help? Whether you want to do volunteer service in some way or make a contribution to an organization, there's so many worthy charities out there. So taking action will often just immediately make us feel better. You mentioned, too, in terms of prosperity, that prosperity isn't always about money. Prosperity can be having excellent health. Prosperity is having excellent relationships. So prosperity and abundance isn't necessarily always counting money. Certainly, if we look at Maslow's, we want our basic needs met. We want our basic desires for food, clothing, shelter, affection. So that is all part of the ingredients of knowing that something is there and that it's possible to get it. So if we have an idea in our head, that job is only for this person, they can get it and I can't, it's impossible, you're already cutting yourself off. You need to look at what you're thinking and to realize that with the technology we have, with the resources that we have, certainly for this industry of coaching, that you can make a plan, lay out what it is you want, and just start moving towards what you want and taking action to get what it is that you want. It's possible. It's more possible today, I believe, than it ever was. There's support to be had. We can go out and we can learn the skills that we want. Yes, there are a lot of obstacles, or there may be obstacles in our lives, but either as individual or in company and support of others, usually and relatively quickly, we can come up with solutions and we can achieve whatever it is that we have laid out in front of us.
Wow, Christine, I had said that this podcast was winding down, and I'm looking at the time and I'm saying, well, we'll just have to have you come back for the new year. This podcast is basically at the close of this year pretty much. What I was thinking is that the things that you just mentioned in your answer, 3 or 4 things just popped into my mind, and then we can discuss that in a New Year's show in early January. The first thing that you said piqued my interest is that you mentioned Maslow, and I was thinking of his needs hierarchy, that basically what we're talking about here is self-actualization, which is Maslow's level 5. Sometimes it's in the literature is known as individuation. But basically it's when all your other lower needs are met, and this is about becoming who you really are, who you were meant to be, what your purpose is here at this time, to be helpful, to be of service, and to be the best that you can be. So that's the first thing that popped in my head when you were talking. The second thing that popped into my head was this issue of, in NLP, it's called reframing, but more specifically what you made me think of, and I can't remember who does that, you can probably tell our audience, you from time to time talk about the power of reality tales. And so I want you just to just talk about what a reality tale is and how it works to reframe and rescript the pain point that the person may have. And the third thing was that in this, you mentioned victimhood. So as you can see, you've brought up so many very important things, especially around the holidays, because people are getting together, but sometimes people are getting together against their will. Oh, do I really have to be here? And especially if they were in a situation at some point in their past where they were victimized, but the issue becomes, will they continue? How will they identify themselves? Do they identify themselves as victim, or do they use that as fuel to become proactive? And I know you have a strong background in the work of Miguel Ruiz, and so that would be something that we could talk about. And then the last thing that your answer made me think of was this thing of that Bajan talks about, and especially in a relationship, and this is particularly relevant here during the holiday period when you're getting together with coworkers or family members or people you haven't seen in a long time, or with people that you don't like. There are many people who get together and it's like, oh, there's Uncle so-and-so, or there's Aunt so-and-so, or there's cousin, or there's that guy, I never liked him. And so Bajan, who you studied with for a while and are very familiar with his work, he has a beautiful visual of when a person has been hurt in a relationship or in other relationships, that they're carrying around this weight, and he uses the term dumpster. So instead of a garbage can, you have a huge dumpster. So if you visualize a garbage can versus a dumpster, so when somebody hurts you and says something, because you're carrying around this huge thing that, let's say you have an argument, and then you pull out something that happened 5 years ago, and the person says, where did that come from? Well, 5 years ago you hurt me, or I was hurt 5 years ago by somebody else that has nothing to do with you. However, I'm taking it out of my dumpster, and it's really stinky right here, and I'm throwing it right on your lap. So that's.
That's very true, Bob. And, we meet that around this time of year, because saying that we're looking for health, happiness, and prosperity, some people may say, what are you talking about? Are you kidding? But it really is achievable. But all these things that, yes, I did touch upon, and you really reflected back to me so well, it's true. Not everyone likes everyone. Not everyone gets along with everyone. But we still can treat each other with kindness and respect. The holiday times at Christmas, whatever holiday you're celebrating, New Year, Hanukkah, or any time that there is a family gathering or a gathering of friends and relatives, you haven't seen each other in a long time, you don't know what's going to come up in conversation. You don't know what's going to come up in interaction. So I think you're definitely right, Bob. I mean, these topics warrant further discussion. And certainly in talking about victimhood, many of us, and I really think I can say many, we don't get through life unscathed, that there is something that happened. There's some loss. And even at this time, we've done shows on grief, and we're without the person that we love most. Let's say we've lost a parent, a child. There's been some unexpected tragedy. So yes, you will be sad about that. But those things, you want them to be they will take their own life in their own way, but you don't want to weigh yourself down in unresourceful states. So that's why you want to pull yourself to life and vitality. A lot of what we talk about when we were mentioning Maslow and the states of the triune brain, we're working on certain survival mechanisms. Survival is good. It's great. It's excellent. But thriving is even better. And we're at a point in time where we can really just excel at so many things, and where we can truly live a lovely life if we're willing to be cooperative, if we're willing to be open and generous. And when you mentioned the reality tale, I think there are many people that do versions of it. I've often said there's a similar concept but different language. It's Laura Day who uses the reality tale, where you write your ideal. What is it that you would want to be living? And you can write this for the past, for the present, for the future. I know sometimes I've written reality tales about some event in the past. I've reframed it. I've made it what never really happened. Some event that turned out less than the way I wanted it to, and I've rewritten it as this perfect event. And when I look back, I'm thinking, oh, wow, this is fantastic. And I feel great that there really are ways that we can change our state And it's not about ignoring the objective reality, but we really can create much of our lives. Some aspects of our lives are out of our control, but there's a certain portion that we can control, and that's what we really want to take a reflective and conscious look at and put our attention and our awareness at what can we change in our lives to make our lives more ideal.
Wonderful, Christine. You keep bringing up things that we'll have to show them for our next show early in the new year. So I want to thank you for being our featured guest today and interviewing with me doing this interview. So I want to thank our audience for listening.
Thank you, Bob, and I really enjoyed it. Audience, thank you for sharing this holiday with Bob and with me. And please, as always, if you want to learn more about what Bob and I do, check out our website, www.stressfreenow.info. As you know, both Bob and I are coaches and wellness trainers. We work one-to-one with clients. We work with groups and by phone. We're both authors, and we're also available for speaking, for training, and custom-designed workshops. So if you would like to learn more about what I do and what Bob does, and to listen to other podcasts, just go to our site. We have a smattering of articles. So please, we look forward to hearing from you, and just get in touch with us at stressfreenow.info.
Great, Christine. What final thoughts or key idea would you like our audience to take away from today's broadcast?
I'd just like to invite our audience members to stay in hope. I know that when I have hope, then I can see possibilities. Then I can really be open to my good, and I can really believe that I can do what works to achieve what I want to achieve, to have an ideal life. So at this holiday season and always, I just invite our listeners to stay in hope.
Fantastic, Christine. I'd like to thank you for being our featured guest today, and I know our audience has enjoyed listening to what you've had to say. And I'd like to thank you, our listeners, for listening in wherever you are and whatever time zone you're in right now, especially here during the holiday season. We welcome and look forward to receiving your comments about our show. Please let us know if there are topics you'd like to see us cover or have a fun guest you'd like us to invite back. Please contact us through our website with your feedback and suggestions. Remember, listeners, if you'd like to experience the same benefits our coaching clients get with us and learn how you can get more accomplished in your day while having more free time and learn easy ways to dissolve your stress, chronic pain, and anxiety, then give us a call at 954-900-2179. Again, that's 954-900-2179. Mention that you heard our Stress Free Now podcast show, and your first session is free. Call today to schedule your appointment. For Christine Wright, this is Dr. Robert Wright Jr. of www.stressfreenow.info. Until next time, be safe and be well.